Welcome to the Tuning In podcast, where we talk alignment, intuition, and our internal guidance system. We cover woo-woo topics in an approachable and practical way. I'm your host, Dana Evans of Alignful.com. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. This is episode 118. And it's been a little while since I last recorded. Sometimes that happens, as you know, if you're a regular listener. So I'm really excited to be back, and I've had quite a few shifts since the last episode. I feel like I say this all the time, but I have hit a point of massive energetic upgrade. And I don't even know if that's the right word because I don't know, but there has been a big shift that has happened for me internally. And it actually happened just 2 days after recording my last episode, which was on July 13th. This happened on Friday, July 15th. And since then, I have really been playing with and reflecting on this. And so I'm going to share about it in today's episode. Before that, I just want to let you know a couple things, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in the episode. But if you are curious to join or to be the first to know about my upcoming program, I have a new program that is coming out in September, and it is called The Emotional Edit. And this actually has been percolating for a few months, and I've gotten some invitations to support this program. And it's going to be a 4-week program that is designed to help you basically get in touch with your emotions. And if you want to see how your physical environment is a reflection of your emotional state and be able to combine both these physical and emotional experiences together to make space, to clear out old trapped emotions, and to reintegrate them so that they are no longer causing you to react to your emotional state as you move forward. So you'll leave with the ability to regulate your emotions on your own. And you'll also leave with fewer emotional beanbags, so emotional charges in your body, and with the tools to actually process your emotions on the fly so that they don't build up and create strong physical and emotional reactions in your world. So it's a really powerful program. It is going to combine both working energetically in your physical body, so energetically in your physical body and in your physical space. And through that process, we will basically uncover your emotions. So this is a big thing that I see with my one-to-one clients is that they're not clear on like what emotions they're feeling or what's present. So it's like you might be a little bit numb or not really tuned in to your emotional state, or you might feel really overwhelmed and like you're in a constant state, or you regularly get emotionally overcharged and overstimulated. Either situation can feel really overwhelming and can cause us to either completely succumb to the emotion and just like lose it, and or basically throw our emotions at others and project them onto others. I call these emotional beanbags fights. Instead of processing your own, you throw it onto someone else. You're like, I don't want this, you take it. Or it can lead to a complete shutdown, right? Where you feel disassociated from your feelings, disassociated from your body, and or numb to your emotional experiences. And that maybe might show up as you're in a perpetual state of fineness. And it doesn't matter which side of the spectrum you're on, this experience will be really helpful for you. And we'll go through my 4-step process where we'll see, sort, sense, and settle your emotions so they no longer overwhelm or distract you from your daily life. So if you're curious about this, I'm still pulling information together and I just have the waitlist open. But if you are curious, this is a really good way to work with me because up until now, the only ways to work with me are either through a deep dive through the Insight One-to-One program, which is a minimum of a 3-month commitment of working together closely, working with your inner voice, clearing out your emotions, and really taking you through a renewal phase, which is what I'm going to be talking to you about, my own renewal phase on today's episode. Or, of course, doing a single emotional clearing session. Those two options are both available, but it's like extreme. Like you can either work with me once or you can deep dive with me. But now I'm opening up this program. It's 4 weeks and you'll get lots of interaction with me along with other people in the group. And you'll have a lot of the tools necessary to really do this work on your own. So if you're curious, that you can put your name on the wait list at alignful.com/email-capture. So I'm capturing your email. I'll put the link in the show notes, but that's also going to be in my Instagram bio. If you click the link there at Dana_Evans, you can access the link or shoot me a DM if you have trouble finding it. But this is a really good way to get a taste of working with me and to really start to shift your relationship with your emotions. So that's coming in September. I'm so excited. More details will be coming later on, but definitely get on the wait list so you are the first to know. Plus, of course, I'll have some early sign up incentives. So if you want to be in and you just know it, let me know. And I have some fun little goodies for you. They involve little gifts. I'm just going to spoil it because I love giving gifts and I love curating beautiful gift boxes for my one-to-one clients. So I thought this is an opportunity for the first 10 people who join. I'm going to send them a special little gift and I'm so excited about it. Okay. Anyway, that's coming up, but let's get into this week's episode, which is all about my own emotional transformation, my physical transformation, and this energetic upgrade that I have gone through. So I had been going through some intense stuff in early July, just like a lot was bubbling up and coming to the surface. And it was showing up in, oh my gosh, just I was feeling really overwhelmed and stretched and a little bit like, stressed out for a variety of different reasons. And it was like, there's this phrase called the extinction bark, which apparently is a dog training experience where the dogs bark their resistance to accepting the training is the most extreme right before they make the change. And literally, I think, if I remember this correctly, it's like they have one last fight, one last bark before they finally embrace the new training. And that is what I feel like my body was doing. Those first couple weeks of July, I was in a lot of resistance. And then on Thursday the 14th, and it was really peaking. And on Thursday the 14th, I actually had a session with my coach, Lauren Armstrong, and we did a little inner child work. And I just was suddenly witnessing, and I'd been in reflection and I shared a lot of this with her. I was witnessing a lot of patterns of mine that were suddenly really freaking clear. And if you know, when your own patterns become glaring in your face, it's like, oh my gosh, how did I not see this? So I was talking through that with her. We did a little inner child regression work to kind of look at the core of where these might be coming from. And I yawned. Oh, I'm yawning right now. I was yawning. I was dizzy. I was hot. I was moving a lot of energy in that session. My body loves sessions like that. I'm very responsive. And then that evening, I took really good care of myself. I had some tea, I took a bath, and just like settled into allowing my body to process whatever it had gone through. And then Friday the 15th, y'all, I woke up feeling like freaking superwoman. I do not know if I do know. I have never felt that high or that clear and clean energy before. I was on a walk. I sent my message to Candace, my magical morning partner, and I saved it. Usually I do every message gets like a single emoticon. This one was like a fairy, the star eyes, a fire, like fireworks. I wanted to be able to commemorate and remember how I was feeling in that moment. And it was so intense. I felt so good. And the energy that was going through me was, there's a song, I think it's like Christina Aguilera, like, can't nobody break my stride. Can't nobody hold me down. Oh no, I've got to keep on moving. Excuse my singing. But that was the energy of the day. I was like, I am unstoppable. And that carried through the day. And then the next day, that weekend, I went to my parents' house and oh my God, I felt terrible. Like immediate dip, which by the way, emotional hangover. This is going to be the next episode you hear from me is all about the emotional hangover. So I will touch on that. But I had an emotional hangover from feeling so good. It was like it short circuited my system. We'll just put it that way. Like my system fried. So Saturday and Sunday, I was anxious. I was uneasy. I was uncomfortable. I felt low. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I got a taste of how I used to feel. Now, I want you to hear those words again. I thought I got a taste of how I used to feel before, whatever the before was. And I'll come back to that in a minute. And I was telling my parents that, and I'm like, well, at least I know I can still feel that level of good. And at first I thought it was like, I just felt sad. I'm like, well, I got a taste of how I used to feel and now it's gone. And I guess the only hope is that I got a hint that like I can still feel that level of good. And it was kind of hard. Like it was, when you feel an extreme high, even a not extreme low feels extreme, right? Because of that contrast. It can be really, really hard on your system. And that's why I'm so grateful for my own tools, because I really was working, even though I felt anxious, even though I felt sad, even though I felt a little defeated, I was able to really work with my own nervous system regulation and like keep myself from spiraling. And then came Monday and Tuesday. There was like a big thing that kind of happened on Tuesday. And Wednesday, I was like, I wonder, what if this wasn't like I got a taste of how I used to feel? What if this is a taste of what's to come? And it was like, ding, ding, ding. Yes, Dana, you're connecting the dots. You have progressed to the next level. Congratulations. That was what it was. And it landed so deeply in my body when I realized that this isn't how I used to feel. I used to feel, I would say, more happy more often. But a lot of that was artificial energy, not intentionally, but I operated, this is probably like 3 years ago, I was operating in the regular old world of it's best to just be happy. I was very social. I gave a lot of energy to a lot of people. It was before I had really discovered my inner voice through my training with Just Lively. It was way before I had known about being a projector. And I just was like carrying on. And so in some ways I was blissfully unaware. And I realized in that moment a few days after the big shift was that energy I felt on July 15th was not how I used to feel. The energy I felt on July 15th it was a new level. It was clean. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so excited about life. Like buzzing that one. It was like this clean, expansive experience that wasn't just a high. It was a new level of possibility of what I can feel and hold. And with that, I then also realized, oh, what happened afterward, this is like we're dealing with an upper limit experience now. My body literally was like, whoa, can things really be this good after Friday? And it had to like take it down so that it could feel what it needed to feel, what it was used to feeling, which is not that good. So once I realized that, it gave me the clarity of, okay, this is a new level of experience. This wasn't a taste of how I used to feel. This is a taste of how I can feel and what's to come. This is a taste of possibility. Which feels so much better, by the way. And okay, so that was the next level of awareness. Then like the next week, another level of awareness came. And it was, how long ago did I used to think I felt good? Oh, that was about 3 years ago. So 2019, pre-2019. 2019 was like a big year. This is like a lot happened. But October 2019, I found out I was a projector. I went to Business by Design with James Wedmore. I found out that I'm a coach for him. And I met Lauren Armstrong, who I have now worked with a ton. And I met her randomly, and she was just starting out her human design business. And like I signed up for her projector program immediately then in October of 2019 and was like so interested in like being a projector. So, and then I had her on my podcast in 2020. Then in 2020, that's when I did the inner voice facilitator training with Just Lively. So in 2019, I was like really into Just Lively. So I was starting to understand my inner voice and like really kind of get into that. And then 2020 is when I was like, I want to do this work. And of course, in February of 2020, that's when I've told this story a lot of times on the podcast, but that was before anything happened with, 2020, because it was in February. And I was feeling like I needed to be doing. I had a membership at the time, and I asked my inner voice, and my inner voice kept saying, rest is best, breathe and receive. And it was so interesting because my inner voice actually wanted me to slow down and pause and quiet myself before everything unfolded in March. You can only know that now in hindsight, right? But it was very hard for my mind. That was like my first experience of really slowing down, which I got really into afterwards. So that was the beginning of 2020. And then we're coming up on 2 years because it was end of August of 2020 when I told Lauren, I said, I want to work with you one-to-one. And I remember because I was in Block Island, I go every year, I'm going in a couple of weeks, and I had like the pre-work to do for her one-to-one program. And I did that in Block Island. And I mean, that's like a pivotal moment for me. We started working together, and what was birthed of that really probably in October was the sloth experiment. And if you've been a long-time listener of this podcast, I did a ton of series about the sloth experiment. And that's what my inner voice called it. And it was really a projector embodiment experiment. And of course, this really worked for me because it's what my inner voice had been telling me. So all of a sudden, I'm like deep into being a projector, like learning about it. I'm working with a coach directly for my projectorness experience. My inner voice had been encouraging me to take space and rest. And October, it was like, okay, what would the sloth experiment look like, right? Like it was like that was birthed. And I believe it started in October. I should pull up when my first episode was, because that was such a pivotal time for me to go inward, to slow down, right? To really be me, right? Like, what does it mean when I decondition, right? When I step into my essence instead of trying to keep up, right? Trying to operate with what everyone expects of me, right? So that's really powerful. That happened on, it's called Things I'm Afraid to Tell You. November 11th, 2020. That's when I shared of what I've been doing. That was episode 60 of the Tuning In podcast. And then November 18th, episode 61 was the sloth experiment. And funny, is called Riding the Emotional Waves. It's hilarious when I look back to at this year, like I can see where everything was always leading me to be this emotional feeling and clearing coach. It was like it had to be birthed on its own. But yeah, back then, riding the emotional waves, still my favorite thing. So that, I guess, end of October and November, I started the sloth experiment. Through December, through January, I was going to give myself 3 months, and then it never ended because I shifted and evolved so much. That is how the Insight one-to-one program was birthed. And that came out, I believe, in February or March of 2021 is when I released my own program, my own one-to-one program. And it came from the sloth experiment of I wanted to take people on this journey to slow down, create space, release and process their old trapped emotions, tune into their inner voice, and use that as the guidance post to move forward with their life. Once they've released all the crap, they could step forward and move forward in this clean energy with a clear channel to their inner voice. And that's what the Insight one-to-one program started as. And then I talked about this in the last episode, Witnessing Your Growth, but really is April of 2021 is where my business really kicked off. And I started working with clients and they started coming forward. And with that, in the fall of 2021, I joined the Projector Mastermind with Lauren Armstrong. And I just continued to get deeper into my own inner voice, deeper into my own projectorness, and deeper into my own emotions. During the sloth experiment, I cried. I mean, I was looking at some of my Instagram videos from then. Like, I just was crying and shedding so much for months. Like, I remember even in March, that was one of my hardest months ever. Like 4 or 5 months into the experiment, I just had days and weeks where I just cried. And let me be clear, I don't have a lot of severe or acute traumas from my childhood or my past. So like, this is just everyday human stuff that gets bottled up and stuck. And I had the space to release and shed. And I always tell this to clients because one of the biggest fears my clients come to me with is, I can't do what you did. Like, I have kids, I have a family, I have a job. Like, I can't just break down for weeks and cry and be in bed. And that's true. Your inner voice will guide the emotional release in the way that you can hold and receive in that moment. So it won't give you more than you can handle. I had a client that I worked with for over a year. She's now going through a really beautiful, big grief. That is a thing. When you have some past traumas, there's a point where it's like your body finally feels safe to grieve what you couldn't grieve before. And she's in that right now. But the only reason she can be in that right now is because over the year, these little nudges, these little steps that she was guided to take intuitively have brought her to this place where right now she has a ton of space to process all of this. But up until then, it was little grievings, right? Which are very important. But you won't get more than you can handle, right? Your inner voice is looking out for you. It's guiding you. It wants you to feel safe. And so, like, just to share, like, from someone else's experience, like, it will happen in the right time. I could cry for a couple weeks because I had the space. If you don't have the space, you won't, it'll be dripped in as it can. But that was like a huge shedding moment, but it continued, right? And it has continued. And I think that's why when I felt such clarity on July 15th and this really clean, high, delicious feeling of joy and abundance and appreciation, I felt so full. And the reason I thought it was, I'm finally feeling good because I felt bad. That's what my mind said. I felt bad for 2 years. No, it's just what I'm realizing so deeply as I come to the 2-year anniversary of starting these experiments, the projector experiment, the inner voice experiment, the sloth experiment, the emotional wave experiment. It's all one, really. My life experiment is what this is, is that I'm finally completing a cycle that's been 2 years in the making. 2 years of shedding, 2 years of processing, 2 years of continually coming back to self, back to self, back to self. 2 years of watching the mind freak out and panic and then turning to the inner voice, right? 2 years of holding spaciousness for myself. And that is what's happening. And the way I described it, I was like, I feel like I'm emerging. It's like a renewal. And the really cool thing about that is that when I created the phases of working with me through Inner Voice, my Insight One-to-One program, one of the phases, in fact, it's the final phase, is renewal. I didn't know that when I created that. Well, I mean, I did, but I didn't know it the way I know it now. I mean, so much of this work that I do and being a projector, it's like I have to live the path so I can guide you down the path. And in the renewal phase, I pulled up my document for the client journey. I'm emerging as a different human being. Is this serving me and the greater purpose that I am here for? A sense of emergence. You feel more like yourself, your true self, mourning the past self. Yeah, definitely. My mind even was thinking, well, if I'm not in pain, I've been used to shedding and in pain, it got a little attached to that. I mean, I'm not, it's just like I'm used to a lot of shedding. And it was like, well, if I'm not working on myself, what am I doing? Like, is this even valuable? Yes, mind, it is. Each phase is valuable. So there was a mourning of past self. Effortless flow, trust, and faith. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how much that has shifted since July 15th. The flow of life, I have stories on that will be coming out. And this trust and this faith of what is coming and what is here that I'm preparing to receive. I laugh at this description that I used. If you're a big Sex and the City fan, Charlotte became Jewish for Harry. And there's that one scene when she completed her training. And there's this, basically, I don't know what it's called in Judaism, but she got baptized effectively. But I know that's the wrong religion. And there was this big bath and she steps in and dunks her body. And then she steps out and she becomes a Jew, as she says. And in that energy, there's this love, reverence, connection, joy. And then I have in here things you may be doing. Sourcing energy from your heart. Yes. Coming up for air, right? I think about this, and that really is what this feels like. I had a lot of mini moments of that over the 2 years of like bursts of feeling good and like steadiness. And as I reflect over the past 2 years, those coming up from air moments have increased each time, right? So for a while, it was like a day, then maybe a couple days, then a week, then a couple weeks, then I'd go down for a couple weeks. It was like this pulsing up and down, up and down. But in this phase, this renewal phase, it's like, and And I feel like I'm more sitting on the surface of the water, like I'm floating versus like the constant in and out. Suddenly have all the energy back. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you what has happened. Now, I understand my access to energy. I'm very aware of that now, and like not to overtire myself or to have fake energy, okay? Or to run off of others' energy. Like I'm very clear on that. And I was very tired for a while, for 2 years. And there's some, there's a lot of other shifts. Like, just know that it's like life is playing this game with you, okay? So I'm talking about this experience, but know that there's a lot of elements of my life that have come together, fallen apart, come together in different ways that are also allowing for this shift to happen. Like, it's not a single thing, but it's all happening in divine timing, which is why I know it's related to this whole renewal phase, this completion of a 2-year cycle. I was at my parents' house and I was on a walk 2 days in a row, and I just felt this urge to run. And I like ran 1.5 miles, which is not something I ever do. I just have energy. I've been sleeping. Here's more ways with my energy. I naturally have cut out caffeine. Again, I know I do this in and out all the time, but it was like my body's like, we don't need it. So I'm only drinking decaf coffee, no caffeine. I've drastically reduced my alcohol consumption, and my sleep is just so good. And I wake up, and yes, I am tired some days, but I'm just looking at the overall arc. I have more energy. Now I'm at like a month of just having more energy. This is great. I have creative energy. This is where the emotional edit program was born. Like, I'm excited to create. I've created some fun reels on Instagram. Like, it's just a different experience. More communication. Yes. It's like inner spring has arrived. I would even say inner summer. Physical changes, clear eyes, standing taller. I've literally been adjusting my posture. I'm like, wow, I was slumping for a while, which I never used to do. And so I've been working on filling my back ribs, rising up. I've been doing hanging from the hang bar and push-ups. It's crazy. And my posture is changing. Softening around the eyes and forehead, right? Less rigidity, less grip in the face, different tone of voice. I've gone through that a few times. If you listen to my early podcast, you'll see. Right? So all of these, by the way, are wonderful phases. And this phase is fun because things start to become clear. Literally, energetically, physically, intuitively, your skin will look smoother. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you, in the last month, my dermatitis that I've literally had for a year, well, more than a year, since last April. So toward the beginning of my 2-year cycle, this peroral dermatitis, and it got bad, like really bad. And I'm like, I'm not going to the doctor this time. I've done it many times, and I'm like, I'm going to wait it out. And just this last month, it has started to clear. It's like insane. I've done nothing different. So, your skin clears, your face will look more structured and toned. I can tell you my whole body looks more structured and toned. I've gone from earlier this year, definitely feeling too light, too thin, a little weak looking with that hunched shoulders. Now I'm getting some of my weight back. I feel strong. I feel toned. I feel sharp. This is crazy. I mean, this is like, I am the embodiment of what I knew back then. Like, I tasted it after like 3 or 4 months of the sloth experiment. But now 2 years in, this is insane. I mean, to me, this is like the pure divine power of living in alignment with your true self. Like, this is why the work I do with my clients is so gosh darn fucking important. You renew as your true self. You'll have lightness in your walk and your energy. You'll feel brighter. This is a wonderful time to enjoy yourself and your newfound insights. It's not the end. This is what I wrote. Just the end of one cycle. You'll continue to cycle through the phases of insight as you continue on your journey back to self. And the beauty is that this is true. This is not the end, but it's the end of a cycle. And I've had many cycles in the 2 years, but I do feel like this 2-year experiment has brought me to this new level. I've released a ton in the last month, and I feel like I've made a leap. Like I'm leaping into something new. I'm leaping into a new way of working with people with emotional launch support. If you're curious about that, let me know. That's coming out. The emotional edit, my 4-week program, and even a different way of working with my insight one-to-one clients. And none of that is known yet, right? I've taken the leap, and August is like this transition month for what is coming this fall. And I just wanted to share all of this with you. I know this is a long episode, but considering the last episode was about witnessing your growth, I think it's really important when you feel a shift in yourself, especially when you've been doing a lot of inner work and you're changing, you're constantly growing and transforming. It's so important to sit with it and watch it, because since July 15th, once I made that connection of, oh, this was like an upper limit that dipped me, I have been practicing really holding into the good, allowing myself to receive, allowing and letting my body regulate to this new level of goodness. Because just as too much pain we can shut down, we can also shut down with too much good. Like I said, my system got fried and it couldn't handle it. So now that I'm aware of that, when I start to feel really good, I breathe in, bring my hands to my heart, and I say, like, it is safe to feel this good. It is safe to allow more of this into my life. It is safe to hold this. I choose to hold this. I choose to allow more of this. I choose to let this flow through me. Right? And with that, some grounding practices just to remind my nervous system that it's allowed to feel this good. And more is coming. Last night I went to bed and I was like, I'm so excited for tomorrow. That was after like many Sundays where I was feeling anxious and not wanting to go into the week. And I was like, tomorrow is another day that a new person could join the emotional edit waitlist. A new person could request to do a single emotional clearing session with me. A new person could message me on Instagram and ask about working one-to-one, right? I could get a new invitation, a new PayPal payment could show up. Like I could have a new idea for a fun reel. Like everything is possible. And I really sat with that and was really sitting with the what is good in my life. That's been another part of this process, is the mind in this upper limit experience. Your mind will try to take you back to what isn't good. So for me, really, most things are good in my life right now. And my mind will fixate on the one thing. It's like, whoa, you don't have as many clients as you should have. You don't have this. It will fixate on the one thing and it will wake me up in the night and try to pull me down. So a big part of expanding and holding this new level, your new energetic upgrade, a new part of this is I've been in constant redirect of the mind. Every time it wants to go to the problem or what it doesn't have or the gap or what's wrong or what might go wrong or a future tripping of what could possibly happen that's wrong in the future, I redirect. No, mind, I know anything that's wrong. I already know that. We've already obsessed about that in the past in detail. We're going to focus on what's right. And that's work. To continually redirect the mind to look at what's right, that's work. The other practice I've brought in is I've been listening to Eckhart Tolle. He has a podcast. I have been listening to that a lot. And I just let him play and it brings me back. And then I'm reading a book called, I think it's The Presence Practice, or The Presence Principles. I'll link it in the show notes. And it's all about bringing you back. I've also been playing with the void of not doing. So I realized how much I was filling my day with like responding to people and like going and responding. And then if I didn't respond, I'd feel like uneasy. Like, what do I do with myself? And then I'd have to listen to a podcast or I'd have to read a book. I've been playing with just sitting and being, because that's part of this experience. When you're going through such a big upgrade, an energetic shift, you have to be in your own energy and feel what it feels like to be with you in your body. Where does your mind go? Where does your inner voice go? What does your body feel like? What is your breath doing? And so spending time in your own energy is super powerful and important in this time, because your mind will want to get into other people's energy, which is really just a distraction and can easily pull you out of your own alignment. So, wow, that's what has been happening for me. I'm using a new microphone. That's new too. I thought this episode would be perfect for the new microphone. I hope the sound is good. I also have no idea how long this episode is because I don't understand this new software. So thank you for listening as always. If you felt something similar, let me know. I love to hear about these experiences. And if you're looking for this deep transformation and renewal of self, coming home to your truth, to your true self, as I've said before, please let me know. This is truly my life's work, at least up until now. I so desire and deeply love serving and supporting you in this way. I'm equipped to help you with your own emotional experience. As I like to say, helping you bring order to your emotional chaos. So this is a time we all need this. I see people day in and day out, and I just in the world. And I'm like, man, if they could regulate their emotions, if they weren't holding on, if they knew how to feel and process in the present, this wouldn't grip them the way it does. And they would be so much freer to be and to feel the full expression of every emotion without being afraid of it or getting attached to it or resisting it or trying to hold on to it. You could literally ride the emotional waves. So with that, I encourage you, if you're curious, if you're getting a nudge from your body, I encourage you to get on the emotional edit waitlist. Again, alignful.com/email-waitlist, or do a single emotional clearing session with me. Or if you really want to go through the phases of the insight transformation, we can work together for 3 to 6 months so you can really go through your own transformation. And I'm soon going to be opening up a few spots to do emotional launch support, which I'm freaking excited about. It's going to be so ridiculously amazing. That's been birthed from a couple invitations and just pure delight and excitement of merging business world with the emotional world. So, and softening the mind through all of it. So those are my offerings right now. I just can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for what's coming. I'm so excited to bring you along with me. And as always, deep, immense gratitude for you for listening, for sharing this podcast, for leaving a review, all of the things that allow this to be heard, because this is really the place where I share at the deepest, most vulnerable level. And you get to hear me living the experiment. I'm paving this path so I can bring you along with me and that it won't be as painful for you. Yeah, as I've learned the tools, I give them to you and to those who I work with. So thank you. As always, all the links for everything will be in the show notes. And next week, you will get an episode about emotional hangovers. So thank you as always for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tuning In podcast. As always, if this would resonate with anyone you know, please share the episode. You can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans, or find me on my website at alignful.com.